All right, so I pushed record and we're getting started here. Welcome to my channel, everyone. I have Beth. Beth, I don't know how to say your last name. Can you say it for me?
It's Hewitt.
Hewitt, if that's easy.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have Beth here, and she has graciously volunteered to do an interview for me in regards to her career development. And everybody's career aligns with what my career development theory that I did for my research was, which was like planned happenstance and happenstance learning theory, which is you can't really plan for it, but there are some skills that help you be more successful throughout your career. And so I'll be asking you some questions, and then at the end, I'll kind of relate how your career development pretty much kind of shows that. And hopefully that all makes sense. Okay. And so, Beth, can you tell us what your current positions, I know you have two, so if you can share with that. Sure.
Yeah. So I work kind of in a non-executive director role for the NHS here in the UK, and that's around being a lay member for patients and public to really allow their voices to be involved in the decisions that are made about health services in the local area. And then I run my own business, which is around kind of life coaching and performance coaching for businesses, where I also kind of do lots of project management and support businesses to grow by kind of mobilizing lots of different business support programs for the local authorities around where I live. So very varied, being in the kind of private sector business world, but also the health and public sector, which is quite interesting.
Okay. And you're located in UK?
I am, yeah.
Okay, great. All right. And so can you tell us about your family background? Where did you grow up and who did you live with?
Yeah, sure. So I lived with my mum and dad, my younger brother in West Yorkshire in the UK, and we were just a small, family unit, and I had I would say, a really nice upbringing. We didn't have loads of money, but we had enough, and I had a good kind of education and just a nice supportive family environment, which I really appreciate that now, being older and looking back on that time.
Thank you. Okay. And when you were young and people asked you what you wanted to be when you grow up, what do you recall telling them?
I never really knew, and I used to really envy other children who maybe knew that, they wanted to be a director or an actor or a nurse or whatever it was they wanted to do. And I always felt like I didn't know what it was that I was supposed to be doing. And I was just interested in so much. So I think when I was really small, if somebody had asked me, I wouldn't have known. And I think I lost my confidence a little bit because of that, because I think sometimes you feel like you need to know where you're heading. And I really had no idea for a long, long time. I didn't know what I wanted to do or where I would end up.
Yes, I totally understand that. I also myself have so many interests. I think that's why I love being a career counselor, life coach, because I get to explore everything with everyone and then see them succeed.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Do you recall any of your earliest career models that you imagined yourself to be like when you grew up, and what kind of jobs did they do?
Again, I didn't really have any models as such, but I do remember just being kind of fascinated with people like Oprah. Being really, when I was really, maybe between 6 and 12, I would sometimes try to pretend to be ill so that I could watch Oprah during the day, because I was just so fascinated about kind of more of the kind of spiritual and helping people side. So I would say it was people on TV more than kind of everyday role models. I would say, although I had a lovely education, I never had anybody who I felt was on my side or who was pushing me or had my back or saw any potential in me, which is now something that I'm really kind of passionate about with my own daughter and just allowing people to kind of flourish and seeing that in people, because I don't think it wasn't that I was overlooked, or it wasn't that people were horrible to me in that respect. It just didn't happen. And I think because I was quite a shy and timid child, and I didn't pick up any fuss because I wasn't being noticed, that I didn't have that role model in an everyday kind of situation. And so I just kind of looked to my mum and my aunties and, you know, other people within my family and what they were doing. But I do definitely remember being kind of drawn to people on TV more than in the mainstream people around me, I guess.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. But I think our aspirations are similar, so it's like hearing myself kind of talk. Okay, and can you tell us about your educational background?
Yes, I went to a lovely primary school, you know, with big green fields and lovely teachers. And then when I got to 11, I had an entrance exam for a local grammar school, and I got a place in that. And I think it was at that point that some of the teachers that had maybe overlooked me a little bit were actually, she has got some potential, and she's capable of going to this grammar school. So, you know, it was a selective school, and I did really well to get in there. And at that time, it was like, it was local to me, which was great, but it was actually, I think it was the 12th best school in the UK. And I suppose you don't appreciate that at the time. I'd done this test and got into this really great school. It was very academic, but I immediately felt like I didn't belong and I didn't fit in because it was so academic. There was, you know, a lot of focus on your core subjects and your maths and your sciences and your English and things. And I was more creative and I wanted to be more expressive, and I really enjoyed kind of the arts and humanities subjects, but you didn't really get as much time to focus on those subjects just because of the type of school it was. So I think that was the point in my life where I started to lose a little bit of confidence, because I could see my peers really flourishing in, you know, in maths and science. And it was a competitive school because obviously children have had to go through an exam to get in there. So automatically you're already, you know, up against some great minds and things. And I just didn't throw myself into school life the way that I now see my daughter completely taking all the opportunities. I didn't want to do like house drama, or I didn't want to do swimming galas because I didn't feel like I didn't feel confident. I didn't feel like, almost like I didn't belong there, which is really sad now looking back, because I wish I'd made most of those opportunities. So although I had a really good education and grounding in the sense of qualifications and all of that, I personally at that point in time didn't feel like it was the best time for me. And I think a lot of, you know, teenagers might feel like that as well sometimes. And it just started to plant that seed of doubt in my mind that actually, what is it that I'm supposed to be doing, and am I actually cut out for, you know, wherever I'm heading next. So yeah, it was a kind of a bittersweet kind of education, I suppose.
Okay. And since I'm unfamiliar with the UK and y'all's like structure, did you then attend college after that, or did you go into a profession after that?
So immediately afterwards, you could go, you know, once you've completed your kind of your GCSEs, they're still called, you then go on to do either to college or do your A-levels. But I didn't feel like I wanted to stay at that school and do my A-levels because I didn't feel like I belonged. So I went to another college for a very, very short period of time. I started doing A-levels and I realised I'm not sure if this is what I want to do. So I kind of quit after maybe about 6 weeks. I quit and I started working for 2 years. I was working kind of in offices, and then I was working a little bit in retail. I then worked my way up to kind of head cashier in retail, and then went into banking. But then after I'd been in banking for a little while, I started getting itchy feet again, and actually thought, do you know what? I actually want to complete my education now. Now that I feel a bit more confident in myself, I want to go back to college. I want to do that. So I went back to college when I was about 19, 20. And at that time, so I was starting maybe 19, 20 years old, and all the students that were alongside me were coming out of school. They were like 16, 17. And so immediately there was kind of, I felt, even though there's not that, when you think about it now, between 16 and 19, it's not much time, is it? But it's a big gap, I suppose, when you're in your late teens or mid-teens. But that was the point that I realised that actually I was quite intelligent, and that I could excel in these different subject areas. So I did law, I did sociology, I did English language and literature, and I did a general studies. But then I kind of threw myself. I thought, well, I'm here now for 2 years. I'm going to make the most of it. So I kind of went overboard. So I did like an MVQ in French, and I did a beginner's course on person-centered counselling as well. And then I did an IT course as well. So I literally just did crammed as much as possible, because I thought, well, this is my opportunity now. I'm doing it on my terms. I'm going to do, all these different things. And so that's what I did. And then I applied to university, and I started out on a law course. But then it's almost like history repeating itself. I felt like I didn't fit. I didn't want to be a lawyer for the same reasons as maybe some of the peers that I was speaking to at that time. And so I quit that course, but I wanted to still go to university. And I was able to get a place on a sociology course. I did like social science and kind of politics degree. So yeah, I kind of just went in a different direction again. And so then I qualified. I graduated in 2004, and I thought, right, the world is my oyster. I can go take on the world. But on my graduation day, I actually found out that I was pregnant. And that was kind of, right, okay, I'm not going to be able to take over the world quite the way I thought I did. And my life went in a different tact, as it sometimes happens. So so that was kind of my longer term education. But I've always been very much into personal development, and I would say that I've never stopped learning, or if there's opportunity to do training here, there and everywhere, I will try to take that on, because it's really important to me now in terms of making the most of education.
Awesome. Great. I have to share my story with you later, because it's so funny. It's so similar. I changed my major like 3 times when I was in college. I didn't start right after, but I started off like in computer science, and then I switched it to graphic design, and then to psychology at the end. So my bachelor's is in psychology, and my master's in counseling. And then my PhD, it's like everything. It's taught,
isn't it, how you just change direction. I think it's really important. I think for me, it's that takeaway is that you're allowed to change your mind.
Yeah.
And it's okay. You don't have to stick to the same task just because that's what you're told that you're supposed to do, or that's the ideas that you put in your head. It's okay to change. I think that's one of the biggest takeaways I've really got from my career and education.
That is one of the biggest things that I say. We ask children, and then we ask teenagers, what do you want to be when you grow up? And really, I mean, I still don't know what I want to be when I grow up. So why are we asking children to make this lifelong decision when it's just silly? It's really silly. It's just the old traditional way. I mean, that thinking of, you're going to be in your job for 20 years, 30 years, it's just outdated. In the past that worked, and it just doesn't work now. And so we really just need to teach better skills on how to navigate life and careers, and not have that mindset of, you go to school and you pick something and you stick with it. And just because you don't stick with it, you're now a quitter, and just so many people have to let go of that. Like, I didn't quit something, it just wasn't for me. It's that change.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And being allowed to do that, but a lot of times it's really hard to get away from what we've been conditioned to think.
Yeah, I think we put so much pressure on ourselves, don't we? And I like quitting now, because I think it's just another opportunity to try something else. I've really kind of embraced it. And I've realised that I'm probably going to talk a bit about all the different kind of roles that I've had. I used to think you need to stick in one place, or you might be seen to be a bit flaky if you're flitting about. But I think I'm one of those people, I'm sure there's other people out there, you might be saying that you just want to absorb all this knowledge and wisdom and then just use those skills in a transferable way, and see what else is out there. And yeah, I just embrace quitting. It's whenever the redundancy card used to get, so I was like, I quite like the redundancy, yeah, because I think it gives you that kick up the backside to actually just take a leap of faith. Obviously, it's not easy it's not an easy situation for a lot of people, but I think it just forces us down a route where we wouldn't normally do that. So yeah, I'm all for quitting, changing direction.
Okay, so you already talked a little bit about your first full-time job, and then you went back to college. So once you re-entered the workforce, when you've talked about this a little bit, so you've changed the way you look at career. So can you tell me maybe about some networking experiences that you've had in your career development?
Yeah, so I just genuinely love people and connecting with them. I think networking really comes to the fore in maybe the last 5 to 10 years, especially when I've been working more around businesses, where it's become more, when it's more part and parcel of, obviously you need to network and make those connections to kind of thrive in your business. So yeah, I think it's how you make the most of it, really, isn't it? I've been to lots of networking events, for myself, or if I'm representing a company, for example. And I think it's really interesting when you look at the personalities around the room, and some people you can read from the body language that they don't really want to be there, or they're not getting much out of that situation. But actually, you can work in the room. You don't have to be salesy or anything. You can just connect with people, and just be interested in what they're doing, and just asking them lots of questions, and being of service if you can. If there's something that you can do to help them. I've built a lot of my connections just by kind of giving a little bit before you kind of take from them. So yeah, is that what you kind of mean around networking?
Yeah.
Okay.
So it sounds like you've learned to navigate and how to be flexible.
Yeah.
Let's see. And did you receive any mentoring after you began in the workforce? I know you said as a child you didn't really receive any career guidance or mentoring.
I've not had any kind of formal mentoring. I've had kind of various people in kind of line management positions who I've learned from. And I think that's really important to me now, is that if I was able to go in kind of full-time employment again, or if I was able to work for a company, it's really important to me who that line manager is, because I a little bit like what I want to get out of the jobs that I do. I want to get as much progression for myself out of these people. So that's really, really important to me in terms of that mentorship and leadership skills that I look for in other people, because I think in order for us to be the best that we can be, we also need to kind of see that and have that, and see different management styles as well. But yeah, I've not had any formal kind of mentorship. But yeah, I think at various points.
Okay. And if you look back in your career so far, what have been some of the most influential experiences in your career?
I think when I left kind of a position that I was in, I kind of had jobs, maybe 2 or 3 years, and then moved around. And then I went to work for the local authority here, local to me. And at that time, I was probably between maybe 26 and early 30s. And it was quite, decent money, I suppose. And the job was, to begin with, was very satisfying. I was learning lots. But then I almost started to feel trapped. and I couldn't see a way out of it. I almost was telling myself that I can't get another job because I'm never going to be able to reach the same salary at the age that I am, and that kind of thing. And so I just felt very, very stuck for a lot of years. And it started to come, that daily grind of I don't want to get up in the morning, and you started to get depressed and anxiety and all that kind of thing. And that went on for a number of years until one day I kind of just, it was almost like it wasn't me. It was like somebody was making that decision for me, but I felt physically so ill that I just couldn't do it anymore. And I remember driving to work, parked the car, and I just couldn't bring myself to get out of the car. I was like, I don't want to go in there. I don't want to do this anymore. But I managed to kind of get out the car and walk to the office, and I kind of went into my line manager's office and just, with all the emotions just come out, and I was just burst into tears, and I just said, I can't do this anymore. This is making me ill. So that was the point where kind of I made that decision that I can't do this anymore, and I don't want to do this anymore. And I had absolutely no idea what was coming next. But I think because I felt so ill, and I just kind of just surrendered into the situation and just thought, you know what, I'm still young. I'm not going to be employed. There's got to be things that come my way, and that taught me that you don't have to do something if you can't look yourself in the mirror every morning and feel joy and excitement about your job, then there's absolutely no point in doing it. And so I kind of learned that aspect in terms of you need to be happy and doing what you love to do, but also that it's okay to, again, quit and walk away, and it will be okay. So I left that job. I kind of never went back. I kind of got the help I needed in terms of, feeling better about myself, because I was in a really low place. And I started just applying for just jobs. How, you can just put it on your phone. Like, I was just sending like ridiculous amount of CVs out here, there and everywhere on job sites. And I think I had like one week I got about 6 interviews, and I went for 2 or 3 of them. I don't think I went to all of them. And I wasn't actually going to go to one of the job interviews, but I did. And it wasn't, the job was like a part-time position. It was a lot less money than what I'd been earning, but it would allow me to kind of have a part-time income, but then also work on my business. So at that time I was blogging. I was creating lots of content. I'd got like a community of bloggers. And I was making a little bit of kind of affiliate income and a little bit income from that. And I thought if I could just do part-time hours in this job and then my blogging, then that will kind of tie me over, and we'll see where that goes. But I actually went to the interview, and the 2 ladies that interviewed me called me back afterwards and said, you can have this part-time job if you want, but we'd really like to give you be the project manager on this new program. And I was like, right, okay, wow. But they said it's full-time position, and I was torn, because I don't want to be full-time, I want to be part-time. I kind of looked at what it would give me, that role. I'd got lots of networking and contacts online all over the world from my blogging, but I hadn't really got any local networks in the business arena. And I knew that this role would kind of give me that. It would open me up to lots of different partners and stakeholders and lots of businesses locally. So I took the full-time job on that basis. It would kind of help me in the longer run. And I thought maybe I could keep up with my blogging and everything, but I just couldn't. I just couldn't keep on top of both things. I had to let the simple blogging network go, which kind of really pained me, because I built up such a lovely community, and I really enjoyed regular content and helping businesses online, but I just couldn't do both. So I would say that was kind of one of the defining times that kind of changed the trajectory of where I am today, really.
Great. Thank you for sharing that, especially that feeling of no longer wanting to do that and just surrendering to it, and then look where it got you.
Yeah.
Okay. And so, in the same note, so what do you feel have been some of your important successes in your life so far?
I think just the sheer amount of different sectors that I've worked in, things that I would never dream of, I would have been able to do. So before I took this program project manager position, I'd not got any events management experience, and part of that position was around delivering kind of large conferences, managing like business advisors, doing workshops and things like that. And today I think I've done maybe about 10 large conferences. I've done maybe 150 plus kind of workshops and mentoring days and things, it's an amazing achievement to say that I didn't have that event management experience before, and just seeing the impact that has on other businesses, in helping them to grow. I'm really proud of what me and the teams that I've worked with have been able to achieve during a very short period of time, really. So yeah, I think that's one of the biggest successes. I think being now like a non-executive director, working at board level and helping the public and patients make decisions about their health services, making sure their voices is heard. I think to be able to get to that level still fairly early in my career, I'm incredibly proud of. And hope I can take that forward in lots of different kind of executive positions moving forward as well. And I think just being able to say that I've got my foot in both camps, the health and public sector and the business and private sector, which are very, very different. And I suppose being able to have that credibility, to my peers, to be able to be in both of those camps. But actually, that's allowed me to see holistically that actually the health and the business world are connected. If we don't have good health, if we're not able to provide opportunities through good health and getting rid of health inequalities for people to advance in their career, we can't essentially increase the economy in terms of the turnout of new businesses and all that kind of thing. So it's all very much linked, and it's nice to be able to see that holistically when I think a lot of people are either in one camp or the other. So I feel very privileged that I've had that opportunity to do both.
Yeah, awesome. Let's see. Good. It's giving me this little error. I'm gonna take care of it really quickly. Okay. So while I'm doing that, I'll ask you my next question. What are some obstacles or challenges that you have faced, and can you describe how you overcome them?
Nothing's jumping out of me. I think I would say that I like to be challenged now, and I like an obstacle because I think it allows you to think differently and creatively. There's always a way forward, I would say, with anything that is put in us in our path. So there's nothing in my career where I thought that's a massive kind of obstacle for me to get over, because I think I've just got into that mindset of actually, okay, here's an obstacle, how are we going to tackle it and keep moving forward. So yeah, I don't think there's anything specifically that I can think of.
Okay, great, thank you. And during your career journey, what are some unexpected events or happenings that occurred that you've transformed into success? You've kind of mentioned a few, but have there been any more?
Yeah. So when I worked at the council, I had, at one time, so I worked at the heart of kind of politics and governance of the council. And I had a part-time, called a scrutiny officer. So I was assistant scrutiny officer, which you would kind of look at policies and strategies that were coming through and scrutinise them and involve like the public in those. So I was part-time assistant scrutiny officer, and then I managed to get a half-time position as a scrutiny officer. So at one time I was kind of assistant scrutiny officer and scrutiny officer, almost assisting myself, which was kind of crazy. And then at the budget cuts, the local councillors, when they were doing kind of the various cuts and looking at the budgets, decided, not looking at who was in those roles, but just deciding upon the roles themselves, decided to cut both of those part-time positions. So essentially I lost 2 jobs in one day, which was kind of, strange thing to find yourself in. But I was able to, so another position became available, and they were able to, I don't know how kind of HR kind of stuff works in the US, but they were able to slot me into half of the security officer post, but I had to have an interview for the other side, which is ridiculous. So imagine I've been slotted into the post for half of it, but for the other 18 and a half hours, I'm going to have an interview for the same job that you've just given me the job. So I had to interview for the other half, which is just an absolutely ridiculous situation for anyone to be in. But I was able to kind of then show myself. I had to go through that whole rigmarole of interviewing and having unions involved and all of that. But I think I showed to my kind of peers that I'm not going to let anything kind of stand in my way.
Yeah.
I'm going to continue. I'm not going to let this defeat me. You've taken 2 jobs away from me. You've given me half. I've had to interview for the one, but I'm still here. I'm still standing. I'm still supposed to be here, kind of thing. So I would say that was something kind of that came left field a little bit that I wasn't expecting. I don't think anyone would expect to lose 2 jobs in a day rather than 1 job. But yeah, that was a kind of strange situation that I was in at one time.
Yeah, definitely. I think that really also shows too being flexible and persistent, because sometimes especially after you've been in a career for so long, you feel this entitlement of like, how can you make me do this? Not you particularly, but individuals that then just, you could have easily been like, well, I'm not going to interview for that. That's not okay. And I've actually seen that. I've been a witness to an individual who she had been in a kind of team leader supervisor role, and there was a lot of like structure changes, and they told her she needed to re-interview for the position if she wanted to keep it. And she refused, and she just took her career in a different direction. But not to say that it was right or wrong, but sometimes, those things happen. So now looking back, were there any missed opportunities that happened during your career? And what I mean by that is opportunities that you were really hoping for that didn't happen, but actually you were really grateful that they didn't happen after all. Kind of like that whole careful what you wish for, and then, actually the reverse of not getting it.
I think right at the beginning, so when I came off maternity leave, I was working a little bit in the registration service, so marriage, births and deaths. It started out as like a part-time Saturday job, but then a position came up to be like a registrar to do births, marriages and deaths. It was a part-time position, and I applied for it, and there was one other girl who also went for it, and she'd been there slightly longer than me. Interviewed for it, the interview went really, really well, and it just came down to she had essentially just got that little bit more experience because she'd been there a bit longer, and she'd actually done the job, whereas I was just doing it on a kind of part-time on a Saturday, I suppose. And so I was really, at the time, I was just really disappointed because I really loved working with people, and on the happiest days, and when we were bringing the newborn babies in, also really kind of, not in a nice way, but working people that I'd lost loved ones, and that kind of caring environment. I really liked that, and I just thought it's a role that I could really flourish in, and I didn't get it, and I was just absolutely good. I was like that. You think that was my role, but it obviously wasn't. It obviously wasn't my role. And this other girl got it, and I was absolutely totally pleased that she got it, because looking back, she absolutely deserved that, because she was right for the position. But so I continued doing the Saturday job for about 5 years, but then picking up part-time jobs elsewhere within the council and other things as well. And that allowed me to be where I am today, I suppose, you know, starting out in the scrutiny world, working across lots of different directorates. I would work on things to do with crime and disorder, in education, health inequalities, economic development, business. So all those things like I'm doing now, it allowed me to, you know, especially the health stuff I would work on, or the economic development and business stuff. All of that was kind of a grounding for where I am today, and it's allowed me to work in business and health today, and that would never have happened had I been successful. You know, I would probably I'll probably work my way up in the registration service and you know, and being, you know, superintendent registrar maybe one day. Yeah, it allowed the world just to kind of open up and a new kind of path to emerge for me. So I'm totally grateful for that. No.
Yeah, you never know what those closed doors do for you until much later. At the time, it feels painful, you know, like, no, this is what I wanted, but you know, the universe knows better than we do. And so let's see. So during your career path, what were some new ideas or things that you tried that led to a career opportunity?
Well, I think it's just that's just who I am. I think when I've done something for a little while, I want to try something new. And so I naturally look for it after a while, which is, I think, why today I know that I can't work for somebody on a full-time. I can't work for a company on a full-time basis because I get itchy feet and I want to go do that next thing. So yeah, I think I like trying new things and I like learning new things and I like working in lots of different sectors. Yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but I think I just naturally enjoy.
No problem. That answers that question. Okay. And then in your workplace, what are some ways that you look for opportunities to learn and develop new skills?
I think I think whenever there's training opportunities, I think I always jump on them.
Okay.
I'm quite creative, so if there's an obstacle, I'll look for a creative solution to that, and sometimes that can bring about when you start to look back and do a bit of evaluation on whatever obstacle you've just come through, that can generate kind of future training opportunities for other people as well, of how we might do things differently in the future. So yeah, I think just continuously learning and trying new things.
Okay. Awesome, great, thank you. And so then now, can you give us like a summary from when you had your first job to where you are now, like how your career has gone? Like, you don't have to go into too many details, but just kind of like how you got there to now.
Yeah, it's long, so I'll try to keep it succinct. So I obviously left school. I worked in an office junior in the wine and spirit sector for a little bit. Then I worked in retail and worked my way up to head cashier, which led me into banking. I did that for a couple of years and then obviously went to university, which I've mentioned already. Obviously, when I graduated, I was pregnant, so I did a little bit of kind of that time. I didn't want to do anything concrete. I just wanted something part-time that would keep, because I knew that I was going on maternity leave. It didn't make any sense to kind of carve out a career at that point. So I worked in transport for a little bit. I was like a customer service advisor, and I was working with really difficult, like, I don't know if anybody, when you work in the transport industry, but quite strong male-dominated environment. Really enjoyed that. It was fun. It was great. But then I went on maternity leave. So then I got a part-time position in the registration service, which I continued to do for 5 years. But then I got another part-time job at the same time in children and young people service. So we used to have, I think they still exist, but a few governments ago, we had like children's centres where you have like all your health professionals and your educational professionals working with children in the early years and their families in the early years of life. So I worked as it was like an admin role, but it was really nice because you could get involved with like creche workers and getting babies into books at a young age. So I did that for about a year, and then I moved to the scrutiny position as assistant scrutiny officer. Did that for a little while before then getting the scrutiny officer post. Obviously lost the job, which we've already mentioned, and got slotted into the full-time scrutiny position. And then I did that for about 8 years. And that's when I kind of started to feel trapped and didn't want to be doing that anymore. So obviously I left that position, had lots of interviews, and then got offered this project management position. So since 2014, I've been managing business support programs to help businesses to upskill in their knowledge around digital and technology, so they can make more informed decisions when investing in their business, whether that's via a grant or some vouchers to help them to grow. So that's for the last 6 years, that's the kind of thing I've been doing. I've been program management, delivering lots of conferences, lots of events, mentoring events, women-only business conferences, and that kind of thing. From a personal level, throughout that time, I've kind of been doing like blogging, creating content online, still very much into kind of the personal development and the life coaching and the performance coaching. So I've kind of been doing stuff alongside while I've been in kind of full-time employment. And then last June, I decided that I didn't want to continue to do that, but I wanted to really keep the door open with like the previous employees and support that work wherever I could, which allowed me to kind of I'm now an associate for my former employee. I do kind of day work for them, day work, project management, helping them to mobilise new business support contracts. I was successful in obviously getting the non-executive position with the NHS, and then I've been able to establish my own business since July last year. So I've kind of got 3 strands now going, and I think I've probably missed some jobs out between somewhere along the line, because I know there's been other things that I've done, but I think that's kind of the majority of roles there.
Okay. Great, thank you. I know it's hard to put it all into words and like not feel like you're running on, but no, thank you for sharing all of that. To kind of tell you about my research, I'm not sure if I had shared that with you previously or not, but
no, go ahead.
So it's based on happenstance learning theory and planned happenstance, which was developed by Crumboldt and then also Mitchell and Levin. These are some people in the U.S. you probably never heard of, maybe not. But
no, I don't think so.
So they pretty much just say that, happenstance learning theory is just that life happens, and it kind of just brings all these things that come about. It could be getting married, losing a loved one, losing a job, moving to a different city, everything that can be considered a life event. And so then they developed this theory, which is a career development theory called Planned Happenstance. And I don't think anybody really knows about it. So that's my mission, to tell everybody about it. And so they talk about these 5 skills that everyone can use and learn in order to navigate their careers better. And so the 5 skills are curiosity, being open to, and I can also email you the information. So curiosity, being open to learning opportunities, which is what, as kids, we are very, very curious, and that really gets extinguished, because our parents are tired, we're busy, can you just give me a second? And, we want them to just sit still because we don't have time for it. But really, we should all be open and pause and, it may lead us somewhere else, right? So curiosity is a big
Yeah.
one. Exploring new learning opportunities with that, just and learning anywhere and everywhere and from everyone, not just, we may feel like, children, what can children teach us? But they can teach us quite a bit, especially to play
Yeah.
more. And so then the next one is believing that there's opportunity. So being optimism, believing
Yeah.
that there is always an opportunity out there, regardless of where we are or what, where we may be in life, there's always another opportunity. Knowing that one door closes, that it just is guiding you somewhere else.
Yeah.
And that could be, you just don't know the possibilities that can be out there. And if we're just looking at one side and refusing to let go of that, we don't get to see what else is behind us. And then the next one is flexibility. So being flexible in different circumstances, and this can be taken in any type of way. I mean, it could be flexible in how we view ourselves, flexible in taking on a role that maybe we feel is not where we want to be. Something that I always think in mind is like, I always want to ask a person, like, would you take a job at McDonald's? And most people would be like, no way, I don't want to go work at a fast food. Um, I'm beyond that. I'm not a person that is there anymore. But when you start thinking like that, that's entitled thinking. When you're unwilling to take a position because you think it's beneath you, it goes back to that whole, like, the universe then sees you as you don't want to accept anything else. So it's something for you to think about, right? And so then the one after that is persistence. And so I think that one, a lot of people, maybe it's easier to be persistent because it's like, okay, I can see the end goal, being persistent in a degree or persistent in other ways. But I want people to also realize that persistence can also leave us stagnant. So we have to make sure that we're being persistent when the time is right. And you have to kind of realize when that is, right? And so for me, I see that as like a holding pattern. Like you have an end goal for why you're in this holding persistent pattern. Like, for example, while I was doing my PhD, I was in a job role that at the time really helped me not be stressed out about work. And so I was able to focus on my studies after work, and not have to stress out about work. Like it was a really great balance. And then once I was in a different, but then I took a risk, which is actually the next one. It's called risk taking. And so for about 2 years while in my PhD program, I kept applying to work in higher education for like universities, colleges, and I would sometimes get interviews, but I never landed a job. And that's when I was like, that's it, I'm done. I'm done applying to these jobs. I'll just see where I go, right? Kind of like following my theory, right? And so with the risk taking, that for me is the hardest one. I'm very much not a risk taker. And so that's the last one of the 5 skills. And it talks about taking risk and, letting go of that fear because you just don't know where it'll lead you. And so after I gave up on applying to all these jobs and I got my full license as a licensed professional counselor, like literally I updated my resume and I got 3 calls from a recruiter and 3 different recruiters. And I was just like, what is all these phone calls? I had actually never thought that would ever happen to me. And it was to apply to this job at this company. And I was like, I don't know about that. And so I actually returned one of their phone calls, which is really unlike me. I'm usually like, if I make a decision, no, I don't try to talk to anybody. But I talked to this recruiter and I told her, I said, well, you know what? And she was an outside recruiter. She wasn't with the company. So like a bounty hunter, I guess. And so she was like, well, what if, just because other people don't like that company doesn't mean that you may not like it. You may actually turn out that you like it. She's like, if you give it a shot and you don't like it, I'll work with you to find another position, right? And so and she might have just been trying to sell, right? Because of course for her, she gets a bounty for her. So But I mean, I didn't think about that. I didn't let those negative thoughts come in. And so I took it. I
Yeah.
took the opportunity. I went and, she prepped me, she prepped my interview. And so I felt pretty confident. And then when I walked in, or as I'm walking into the interview, one of the managers she tells me, well, there's actually 3 positions that you're interviewing for. And so then that actually gave me some relief, like, oh, okay, well, there's 3 positions. I have to
pressure off.
Yes. And so, but then during the interview, there was like 2 people in person. And then I don't even remember how many on the phone, maybe like 6 managers. I don't know. It was ridiculous.
Oh my goodness.
And
yeah.
so I was just like, whoa, then I wasn't sure at that point. I was like, well, I don't know. I guess we'll see. Well, I got the job offer. I got a job offer making $15,000 more than what I was currently making. And then fast forward 9 months after that, they saw my potential and I got promoted. And so like all these things that I wouldn't have even thought of happened because I took a risk at a company where everyone was like, oh no, I would not recommend going there and blah, blah, blah. And, listening to someone else, an outside source, of taking that, right? So those are the 5 skills that Crumbles and the other 2 had come up with. And do you feel that you've used those 5 skills throughout your career?
Yeah. I think like definitely curiosity, because I feel like almost like that is almost my mission on this planet, is to take in as much information and learn so much. So that I think that curiosity has led me down lots of different routes in my career. I think being open to, that was one of them, open to kind of learning and the opportunities that come up. I've definitely shown flexibility, I think, in, sometimes taking on more than what's in your job description kind of thing, and just putting yourself out there and showing that you're willing and that kind of thing. But then I think the risk is the big thing, and I think the risk is the bit that almost provides the most outcome, isn't it? Yeah. You see the biggest difference. I think, the risk when I decided I'm not doing this job anymore, that was the biggest risk at that time. But yet that opened up a completely different new avenue. And even the risk of, putting myself forward for like the non-executive position, I could have taught myself out of that. I was interviewed by, GPs who'd been in the profession for a long, long time, and you start thinking, who am I? They've got all this experience and things. I'm not a GP, I'm not a medical profession, but, I've still got skills and experience, and, I think I've got something to bring to the table. So again, that's a risk, isn't it, of putting your face out there and actually seeing what happens and seeing what sticks. What was it? Have I missed one of them out? But I think definitely it makes complete sense. Yeah.
Yes. And I mean, if we are just more aware of these skills, or the fact that, using them can really, really propel one, especially like you said, risk taking. Another author that I follow, John C. Maxwell, I'm not sure if you've read anything by him, but he talks about, I'm reading one of his books, it's called Today Matters, and he talks about making these decisions, and when we take a risk and make a decision early, that we reap the biggest rewards versus if when we kind of have to, or at the end when we absolutely have to make a change, we no longer get the big reward had we done it early on. Kind of like an investment, if you invest early, you get a big reward versus trying to buy a stock from Apple right now. The book, do I have the book here? Where is my book? I was going to show you the book. It's called Luck is No Accident.
Okay.
Or Luck is No Accident.
I think that's happened like so many times where you actually commit and make that decision. It's almost like as soon as you've made that decision, the door opens or the path becomes clear, even if you don't know what the next thing is.
Yes, definitely. I don't know where the book is. It says luck is no accident, but it's a really, it's not even really a book. It's more like a workbook, actually. You might like it to use it with your clients because it kind of gives you a little bit more and some examples or ideas of examples and that you can tailor for yourself. Because I know I'll read it because it's from, I don't even remember when it was written, but I should know, but I don't. But there's a new one that Crumboats did in 2014 with a different person that I plan on reading. I haven't read it yet, but definitely, I think more people should be aware of a different career development strategy, and really that careers are dynamic now. They're no longer what they used to be. They're not this traditional, you stay in, 10, 20, 30 years, and not just locally, because everyone, of course, thinks of themselves just wherever they live, of course, for myself in the US and yourself in the UK. But with the internet, everything has just blown up. You can do, look at this. We would have never met if it wasn't for the internet. And so before I rant on, because I can rant on forever, is there anything else that you would like to share?
No, I think we've covered quite a lot, haven't we? I think, my passion moving forward is around helping businesses and individuals really visualize that future for themselves. My whole business is around visualization, and whether that's, through affirmating or, just really planning out in detail, but, journaling, how you can really visualize your future. And that starts to give you, if you think about it, if you're doing like a business plan, you wouldn't not have a business plan if you wanted to, to progress your business. And I think it's the same with us as individuals, isn't it? That it gives you that kind of flavor of where you want to go and what you want to include in your life moving forward. So yeah, I think it's been really, really nice talking to you today and just kind of understanding that, we're all on similar paths, really, aren't we? We're all doing things day in, day out that can change the trajectory of where we're heading next. And it's been really interesting to find out about the work that you do. So thank you. It's been really nice to meet you virtually.
Yes. And then I'll also be posting your links on the YouTube video when I post it up.
Excellent. Thank you very much.